9 months ago, I posted a short going over the most underrated track in every Mario Kart game, and the short did pretty okay. Today I'll be analyzing and updating this list in more detail, since overall it's what the short lacked, with 9 tracks to discuss in 60 seconds. For reference, I'll be using the data from my YouTube rank series to judge which tracks are way too low on each list. If there's a track in a specific game that I feel like gets too much hate, then I'll go over that as well. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, as well as leaving a like on the video, and make sure to let me know which tracks you think are underrated and if you agree with my picks in the comments. Before we begin, I must let you know that I won't be including arcade games once again on this list. This is because I haven't played them, and if I rank them without playing them, then my opinions on the tracks are just straight up incorrect. With that said, let's get into the most underrated track in every Mario Kart game. And this time there won't be a countdown for no reason. Wait, what? First up we have Super Mario Kart, and in the short I chose SNES, not SNES, I'm never gonna make that mistake again, Choco Island 2. Now in hindsight I disagree with this pick because the off-road in this track is way too punishing and the ramps don't work too well. Instead my pick for this spot is Bowser's Castle 3. The split paths, the many ramps and boosts throughout the track, and just simply not being as annoying as Bowser's Castle 2 makes it probably my second favorite track in the game behind Rainbow Road. As we have seen from Mario Kart Tour, this track is one of those tracks that will get much more attention and praise if it were in a different Mario Kart game. Next is Mario Kart 64, and I'll be staying with my pick here, that being Banshee Boardwalk. It's a very unique track that really challenges you with the amount of enemies, sharp turns, and missing guardrails. I also enjoy the added details that add to the lore and theme of this course. An honorable mention here goes to Frappe Snowland. It is genuinely one of my favorite tracks in terms of the general vibe, and I love how menacing the snowmen can be. Like seriously, don't mess with these guys. Before moving on to the next game, however, I want to go over the most overhated track in the game. Wario Stadium is one of my favorites in Mario Kart 64 with the track layout and overall feeling. It gets a ton of hate for taking a while to finish and not being aesthetically pleasing, but in my opinion the scale tips more towards the benefits here. Nintendo also needs to get off the hate train with this one and finally give it a remake like the others. For Mario Kart Super Circuit, I chose Snowland as the most underrated track for this game, and since I feel like it's a more overhated pick, I'll provide a second option for this spot as well. The main thing that this track gets flack for is the literal earthquake on screen when you race through it. While this is pretty annoying, it shouldn't take away from how amazing and fun the track itself is. The cheery vibes, amazing music, and fun shortcuts are the reason why I was looking forward so much to a remake. As for my underrated pick here, I would have to go with Riverside Park. It does get the recognition it deserves from what I have seen, however the majority of people see it as just a decent track when I think it's a top 3 track in the game. The artwork that is the background combined with the turns that are nothing short of satisfying makes this one simply a delight to play each and every time. Moving on to Double Dash, the selection here remains my pick with Mushroom Bridge. I will also be adding Mushroom City to the spot however, since they are together on the Double Dash ranking towards the middle of the list. These traffic tracks are really well designed with multiple paths, shortcuts, and all the fun vehicles like the mushroom car that shoots at mushrooms, a bomb car that does, well, bomb car things, and most importantly the Wiggler car that hits you like a freight train. It also is home to the most banger music the Mario Kart series has to offer. As for the most overhated track in this game, we can just skip past that for the sake of my reputation. For Mario Kart DS, the track I chose for the spot was DS Yoshi Falls, and while this is true, fighting for the recognition of this track just isn't worth it for me anymore. I absolutely love the idea and vibes of this track, however it's way too short and gets repetitive before the first lap even ends. I wish they had expanded on the idea here to make it more interesting. Substituting in for Yoshi Falls here is Bowser's Castle, which I feel like doesn't get the praise it should. I love the uniqueness of this Bowser's Castle with the moving platforms throughout, the burners to avoid, and of course the rotating bar in the middle of the track. This was one of my favorite tracks as a kid. Next up is Mario Kart Wii, and this pick is one of the more questioned out of most, I must say. My pick here went to Moo Moo Meadows. However, people stated that it was too popular and got the respect it deserved already. But you know what I would never stop hearing for an alternative? Toad's Factory, one of the most popular tracks in Mario Kart history. I guess maybe people misunderstood the prompt here, but the comments kind of played themselves on this one. Now that YouTube ranks for Wii tracks is done, I can see that Moo Moo Meadows is placed correctly in my opinion, so I'll be making a switch for this one and I'll be taking Moonview Highway instead. I'm a sucker for traffic tracks if you couldn't already tell, and even though you like this one or you don't, I feel like Moonview Highway is one of the best tracks in the series based off sheer gameplay. My pick for Mario Kart 7 is Mario Circuit, which will stay the same. This is by far the best version of Mario Circuit, with it being really fun and interesting. The scenery, mushroom bounce pads, being able to drive inside Peach's castle, and so much more, making it an amazing track. Cheep Cheep Lagoon is also a good candidate for this option because it brings back some memories personally, and I think the layout is pretty cool. It gets way too much unwarranted hate for being simple.
Oh yeah, Mario, wahoo!
Since there's no time constraints on this video, I'll be splitting Mario Kart 8 Deluxe into 3 sections. Mario Kart 8 base game, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe base game or Wii U DLC, and then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. First up for Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, I have Sweet Sweet Canyon. The theming of Candyland is such a cool one and it translates pretty well in this track. There's also some split paths and plenty of shortcuts to take with this one, along with how satisfying the layout is. For the Wii U DLC, my pick remains the same with Super Bell Subway. Driving through a subway, a place that would otherwise be inaccessible with cars to avoid, multiple paths to take, and the ability to drive on top of trains themselves just culminates into a beautiful track. For the Booster Course Pass, I'll have to go with Peach Gardens. This is probably the least confident I am with a pick for this list though. Snowland is already off the table, I agree with most rankings on the Booster Course Pass so far, and Peach Gardens is a pretty popular track. However, I think it is easily one of the best tracks in the Booster Course Pass so far. So I'm not saying that Peach Gardens itself is underrated, I'm just talking about specifically this remake. The little things made this track so much better than in other versions, like the colors, music, trickable sections that weren't there before like the hills and Monty Mole tracks, and the course getting spiced up for the final lap, paying tribute to that Mario Kart DS mission make me adore this remake. And the last part of this list is of course Mario Kart Tour, and this is also a pretty hard pick since I don't particularly see too much of a difference in most of its selection. Don't get me wrong, each track has its own thing to make it special, however they are all very similar. With that said, however, I will stay with my pick from the short, Paris Promenade. And yes, I said the American way, you can deal with it. The selection fits both the overhated and underrated theme here. The track is certainly not as bad as people proclaim it to be, and even though I don't really care for aesthetics in Mario Kart, I enjoy the vibes. Split paths are nice to have, and that glide towards the Eiffel Tower just defines this one for me. It certainly isn't the best tour track out there, but it should get the same amount of love as the others. And that is the most underrated track in every Mario Kart game. Again, let me know your picks in the comments, and I will see y'all in the next one. Have a good one.